Good afternoon. We're in Charleston, South Carolina. We made the 2-hour drive this morning from Savannah, Georgia to get here. We're going to be here a few days taking in the sights of the area, and we look forward to sharing it with you. Good morning from Charleston, South Carolina. We're headed over to the visitor center. This is our first day here. We want to plan our adventure, so stay tuned. We're getting ready to go in what's called the city market. Leslie said it's supposed to be a pretty cool place.
I'm drooling. Look at this. I'm drooling. I love smart stuff.
So it's just down here.
It smells so good.
It's the market that never ends. One building after another. Pure joy. What'd you say?
$55. These are one of the oldest crafts made. They're made with a special kind of grass.
Have you ever known somebody that has a hard time making a decision? Well, here's the tool they need.
The answer is yes.
So the thing that stood out to me most walking through the city market is you do not want to get close to the people who are selling, I'm going to call them wicker, even though they're probably not wicker, the handmade baskets, and have a camera in your hand, because they will instantly get grumpy at you if they think you're taking a photograph of their handiwork. So, lesson learned.
So that's the Calhoun House, and it was built 10 years after the Civil War. The largest privately owned home, and it's 25,000 square feet. George Williams was a member of the city council and was chosen to offer the surrender of the city to Sherman's army on February 18, 1865. Welcome to my mansion.
So most of the historical stuff you've seen so far is down what's called Meeting Street. And there's just too much history there to try to talk about it, so we just wanted to show you some of the beautiful buildings. We're in what's called Battery Park. This area was, there was a seawall built to defend the city of Charleston back during Civil War times. And supposedly you can see Fort Sumter from a portion of this park. So we're going to walk over to the actual seawall and take a look at it. I mentioned earlier that the homes are built sideways to the street, and some people say that's because of property taxes. meaning that the less street frontage that you have, the less you'd pay in taxes. Others say this is just the way the lots were laid out in the city, because at one time the city was a walled city, and the lots were laid out real long and narrow. We think this is called Rainbow Row because all the homes are different colors. South Carolina's most historic building, the Old Exchange.
This was the old Slave Mart Museum, and this was built in 1856. It was one of the estimated 40 slave auction houses in a 30-block radius, serving Charleston's demand for new slaves at their plantations.
First theater ever built in America, built in 1736 originally. It's been rebuilt since then, but it resides on the same grounds.
It ran all the Protestants out at that time.
Well, we've made it to Patriot Point, and we're going to walk inside, see if we can get our book stamped here. If we can't, maybe we need to take it over to Fort Sumter. There's a pretty incredible sight straight ahead. Check this out. That is the USS Yorktown. And there's a destroyer called the USS Laffey.
Right up? Yes.
I got screwed.
Which is the first fort here, closest one to Charleston. For a month or so at the most. Of course, it lasted to 1960. There are bathrooms over there. There's a museum.
Well, we're on our way to the fort. It's about a 30-minute boat ride to get there, and then we're going to be there about an hour.
I think they said it was like 3 miles.
The hand to the left.
Don't forget, 11:30, we're going to have a ranger talk in the parade ground behind me.
I don't know how well you can see it, but this is the actual flag that flew over Fort Sumter during the bombardment in 1861. This is the first flag flown by the Confederates once they took the fort from the Union.
Okay, so this was a big, impressive fort surrounded by a mile of water, 360 degrees.
Another item that we want to check out while we're here is a tree. It's a live oak tree that's said to be about 500 years old. It's called the Angel Oak.
Yep.
The Angel Oak tree. 500 years. If it's truly that old, that puts it back in the 1500s. That's a long time ago.
So this Angel Oak tree stands 66.5 feet tall, and it measures 28 feet in circumference. It produces shade of 17,200 square feet, and from tip to tip, the longest branch is 187 feet. So that's pretty amazing tree, the biggest I've ever seen.
How'd you like to have this in your backyard? Our last stop of the day is the Charleston tea plantation. It's out in the boonies, but we're going to tour it. Supposedly a French botanist brought over a special plant back in the late 1700s, and that plant did real well in this area, and they were able to make tea from it. And I think they give free samples, which I'll gladly partake of because I like tea. Leslie, not so much.
But I'll try it. Oh, here they have them in little tins.
While tea grows in some 34 countries around the world, surprisingly, there's only one tea estate in all of North America.
And that's right here at the Charleston Tea Plantation.
The precise scissor action cutting bar clips the newest, youngest leaves from the tea bush. Our tea, a particularly fine cut. The amount of oxidation in the next step determines the type of tea, black, green, and oolong. Feel the warmth of the new summer sun.
There's a picking machine, and you can see a lot of tea plants behind it with a fresh cut on them. I think they said you can get up to 7 cuts per year off of these plants, and these plants last forever. So I enjoyed that self-guided tour. One thing I learned was that Charleston, South Carolina, this particular plantation is the only location in North America where tea is grown and produced. So this again is called the Charleston Tea Plantation, and the self-guided tour was free. They do have a trolley tour that will take you around and give you a little more detail. I think that's $14 a person, but we just opted to do the self-guided tour ourselves. These are the nearest tea plantations, and out of all of these, I believe Argentina is the closest. 4,823 miles. Good morning, everybody. This is our third and final day in the Charleston area. We've really lucked out with the weather. It's another beautiful day. It's been in the 70s the whole time we've been here. Today we crossed over to what's called Sullivan's Island. We're going to check out our final fort, probably for quite some time on our journey. This is called Fort Moultrie. And again, this area played huge significance in the Civil War era.
What did you say was the movie?
Yeah, it's pretty simple to that next week.
Fort Moultrie. There's not a specific call out for Fort Moultrie in our book, so we're just going to stamp it on a blank page. So obviously that's a map of the area, and Fort Moultrie is right here. Sumter is up here. I mentioned earlier about the Civil War, but this fort here on Sullivan's Island actually goes all the way back to the Revolutionary War timing. Back in the 1700s, there was a fort built here to protect the United States from the British. And the first attack on this area was defeated by the Americans, and Colonel William Moultrie was the commander. So this fort was named after him. Weather has taken its toll on this fort over the years, so the initial forts were built out of palmetto logs and sand, and as the hurricanes and bad weather came over time, it tore the fort apart. So it's gone through numerous rebuilds until I think it was around 1870 the fort was built out of brick and mortar, and I think it's currently in that same status that it was back in the 1800s. So this structure housed the powder supply. So it's bomb-proof. They learned during the Civil War that they needed to bomb-proof. How do you like that echo? Bomb-proof the powder to keep it from exploding from enemy artillery. Be asking, well, it didn't look like this in the 17 and 1800s, did it? And the answer is no. But they used this fort during World War II timing. So you can see they're all set up for that. The generator that they installed, guarantee they had uninterrupted power during a crisis. Here is the heater room. So you can see Fort Sumter from here. So any enemy ship trying to get into Charleston would have a difficult time getting past these two forts. And then off in the distance there is the city of Charleston. This gun would shoot 5 to 6 miles, so it could easily reach out as far as needed. I've learned so much on these tours of these forts. Really makes you appreciate our history and what the generations before us went through to give us the freedom that we now enjoy today.
Well, we're on our way to Boone Hall Plantation and Gardens, so hopefully it's going to be really pretty from what we've heard, so hope they're right.
In 600 feet, turn right to stay on Oak Avenue.
All right, sir, little receipt. First right-hand turn at the green sign, takes you down the avenue to parking. Take this sheet to Hospitality 16. They'll start your tour.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
So these trees, when they were planted, it took 200 years for them to meet at the top.
So these trees were planted in the 1740s by, I think, the original founder of this plantation. It was his son or grandson. Do you remember what it was?
Yeah, I don't remember exactly.
Wow. How beautiful is this?
And it kind of became known that a lot of plantations started doing this because they loved how it looked, the entryway with these trees.
I think a couple movies have been filmed on this plantation, The Notebook and North and South.
Yep.
Is that right?
Yes.
USA Today says it's one of the top plantations in the country, and it's got a lot of other accolades too, but boy, how beautiful.
Off to the left you see the slave quarters that were here. I think they're in the National Registry of Historic Buildings. there's Boone Hall Plantation.
Well, that was
My name is Linda. I also want to extend a warm welcome on behalf of the family that owns this plantation. That's the McCrae family. Will and Elizabeth McCrae, and they are brother and sister.
Beautiful animals. And look at that wispy cloud that looks like a rainbow.
Well, this was their church.
Oh, yeah.
So each of these slave houses has a unique theme to it, and they're very well done. Very informative. Understand what the slaves went through back in this time. This slave owner had 300 slaves that worked on their plantation.
Slavery dominated the southern states in the 1800s.
Well, this brings to a conclusion our visit at the Boone Hall Plantation. It was a good visit. We enjoyed it, learned a lot about the era that this plantation was first built in. This also brings to a close our trip to Charleston. What a great time we had, and we left things to do for in the future. So we look forward to maybe coming back to this area someday. Take care, everybody.
Bye.